Okay, our first step is we are going to graph the points. Four, 6, -3, 2, and -2, -6. Here is my triangle. Now, here it does not look like I have a right angle. I don't have any horizontals, and I don't have any verticals. So what I'm going to do is we are going to have to find two equations of our altitudes. Now, I could find the slope from the point -3, 2 and the point 4, 6. My slope then would be 6 minus 2 over 4 minus a -3, which that would equal 4 over 7. So the slope of this line would be 4 over 7. If I extend this line out, the altitude would be the vertex opposite that side, which would be this vertex right here, and a line that goes perpendicular to that line. The white would be my altitude. The white line is the altitude, Morris Kelly. Okay? White lines are the ones we're looking for. And I'm purposely going to keep this color coded. So if the slope of this line was 4/7, what's going to be the slope of my white line, which is perpendicular to that? -7/4, right? So my slope of my perpendicular line would be m equals -7 over 4. So let's write the equation for that. Y equals -7 over 4x plus b. Now I ask myself, I say, self, is there a point on that white line that I know? Yes, there is. It's going to be the vertex right here. That vertex is the point -2, -6. So my x is the -2, my y is the -6. So I'm going to plug that into my equation to find my y-intercept. -6 equals -7 over 4 times my x, which we just said was -2, plus b. 2 goes into 4 2 times. So I get -6 equals -7/2 plus b. I'm going to add 7/2 to both sides. Excuse me. Let me back up a little. Oh, it won't let me back up. Let me see if it'll erase. It does erase. Good. Before I write that, I have -7/2 times a -1. A negative times a negative is a positive. So that's going to be 7/2 plus b. So I'm going to subtract 7/2 from both sides. So b is going to equal 6 minus 7/2. So 12/2 minus 7/2 would be 12 and 7 is 19. So b equals -19/2. B equals -19/2. So the equation of my white line is y equals -7 over 4x minus 19/2. Now that's only one altitude. I've got to do it again and find another altitude. Now look at here, Morris Kelly. I'm going to extend this yellow line out, which is part of the triangle, right? And then in white, I'm going to draw the altitude. That would be perpendicular to that line. So I'm going to need to know the slope of this line, which is part of my triangle, so I can find the slope of my altitude. Okay, so this is the point 3, -2, and down here was the point -2, -6. So let's find the slope of that. Let's see. Slope equals 2 minus a -6 over -3 minus a -2. Plus a positive, that gives me 8. Plus a positive, that gives me -1. So my slope of my triangle is m equals -8. If it's -8, what is going to be the slope of my altitude then? Which would be perpendicular to that? 1 over 8. So this is going to be y equals 1 over 8 x plus b. Right? Because my slope is 1/8. So here I've got my first equation. Now let's go find the rest of it. Do I know a point that is going to be on this altitude? What? 4, 6. Okay, good. This point right here. So let's plug that in. 6 equals 1/8 x, which is 4, plus b. So 6 equals 1/2 plus b. Subtract 1/2 from both sides. See, 12 halves minus 1/2 will be 11 halves. So b is going to equal 11 halves. So my other equation is going to equal 1/8 x plus 11 halves. Now, I think this is going to be a little harder to do than with elimination. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to use an elimination anyways. Okay? So, with elimination, I'm going to multiply the bottom equation. Let me set it up first before I do it as a linear equation, okay? A system of linear equations. So I'm going to shrink this. I'll blow it back up when we need it, okay? I'll just move it off to the side. The point where these meet, these two lines meet, let me blow, doggone it. Let me blow it back up real quick. The point where they meet right here, that's my ortho center, right? So since I know the two equations, I can use a system of linear equations to find that intersection. When I find that intersection, that will be my ortho center. Okay? So let me shrink it again. Now let's use the system of linear equations. Y equals -7 x minus 19 halves, and y equals 1/8 x plus 11 halves. If I multiply the bottom by a negative, I will eliminate my y's. I'll have a positive y and a negative y, right? So let's do that. I'm going to use linear combinations. If I multiply everything by negative, everything just changes signs. These cancel will leave me with 0 on that side. Equals. Now, -7 over 4 minus 1 over 8. What is that? It's okay, we probably should be able to do this on paper, but since we have a calculator, let's use it. So I'm going to say -7 minus 1/8 equals -1.875. Go ahead and hit math, enter, enter, and it will take it back to a fraction, which is -15/8. So I get -15/8 x. And then 19 minus 11, -19 minus 11 would be -30 halves. So if I add 30 halves to both sides, that'll give me 30 halves equals -15/8. Now I'm ready, oh, x, sorry. Now I'm ready to multiply by the reciprocal to get x by itself. So I'm going to multiply both sides by negative 8/15. Here the 8's will cancel, the 15's cancel, and a negative times a negative is a positive. So I just get x on this side. I know that 15 goes into 30 two times, and now the 2's will cancel, just leaving me with the negative 8 over there, right? So x then equals negative 8. Now, I'm going to take this negative 8 and plug it back into one of my originals. It does not matter which one you plug it back into. So I get y equals negative 7 over 4 times negative 8 minus 19 halves. Well, 4 goes into 8 two times. So I'm going to get negative 7 times a negative 2, which happens to be a positive 14. 14 minus 19 halves. Well, I can write 14 as this 28 halves. That's the same thing as 14, right? So I have a common denominator. Minus 19 halves equals what? 9 halves. So my y is going to equal 9 halves. My x equals negative 8. The answer, negative 8, 9 halves. And that would be the ortho center.